Okay, flipping to the next example. So now we're going to have you go backwards. So we're going to give you the transformations, and we're going to have you write us the equation. So first thing you want to do is write your y equals. Now, with horizontal compressions and expansions, we're actually going to have you do a bracket first. And then do your parentheses. So we're going to break this up because, again, horizontal has to be inside and it's opposite movement. So for horizontal compression by a factor of 1/4, so when we write that in our equation, we're going to flip this. So that's going to look like a 4 in front of my parentheses. So it is in front of the parentheses, but it's still in a bracket. So that's why we want you, for horizontal, we want you to use the bracket. So that takes care of this first movement. Translation left 4 units. So this is why the parenthesis and bracket are really important. So that left 4, which again would be opposite, so +4, is going to be inside your parentheses. And then for your down 7, you're going to say -7 at the end. Now, if you want to go ahead and write this, you can distribute this 4 in, but you still need to have the bracket. So you would have 4x plus 16 and then -7. So you could write it either way. Keeping it this form is totally fine. So this shows us that it's horizontal because it's inside the bracket. Opposite of 1/4 would be 4/1, so we can just write 4. We have our left 4 units plus 4, and then we have our down 7 units. Okay, for the next one, again, we don't have a horizontal compression or expansion, we just have vertical. So our parentheses are fine there. And then with this one, it says vertical expansion by a factor of 3. That's going to go in front of your parentheses. And notice I don't have a left or right movement. So in my parentheses, I'm just going to have an X. And then I have a reflection over the x-axis. So that's going to be a negative in front of your vertical expansion. So this would look like that as your final answer. If you do a parenthesis around here, that's totally fine. I'm going to have you pause and I want you to try 12 and 13. Okay, taking a look at this, so you have a vertical compression by a factor of 1/5, so that's going to go in front of your parentheses. Again, you could have parentheses around this x if you would like. We don't have any left or right movement, so that's why I just have this x here for my x squared. Don't forget your squared because these are all parabolas. Translation down 2 units is going to be after your x squared. You're going to have -2 because you're going down. Here we have a translation 5 units, down 2, and then a reflection over the y. So again, a reflection over the y is going to be inside your parentheses. And then you're going to have your right 5, and then you're going to go down 2. Okay, I am going to have you add in your brackets because we're talking about a inside reflection, so I want that to show that that's inside, and then we have our +5 movement. Okay, looking at number 14, so it says Jim wrote an equation given the following transformations applied to the parent function. Explain why his equation is correct or incorrect. So we're saying a horizontal expansion by 3 and a translation up 6 units. So I'm going to have you pause, take a minute, see if you can determine whether he's correct or incorrect, and then we'll come back together for the explanation. So looking at this, the way it is written right now, this is showing a vertical expansion by 3 since it's in front of the parentheses, and we want it to be horizontal. So if I want to rewrite this, I'm going to rewrite this as y equals my bracket. If it's horizontal expansion by 3, again, we're going to flip that because it's horizontal, and then do our plus 6. So explain why the equation is correct or incorrect. So I would say the equation shows a vertical expansion by 3 Okay, I'm going to have you pause the video and I want you to work through 15, 16 and then come back and check your work. Okay, looking at number 15, so we have a translation up 3 units. So if I look at my equation, notice I have the plus 3 after. That is going to be correct. That follows the same sign. So if I'm up, I'm adding, so that should be plus 3. Reflection over the x-axis, that should be this negative in front, so that's good. Horizontal compression by a factor of 1/2. So if I look at this equation, notice I have a 2 in front of my x, and I need to simplify this. So below here, I took a 2 out, and that left me with x plus 1. So if I'm looking at this, this is a 2 out front. That is going to be the compression of 1/2, because remember, you flip it since it's horizontal. So since you see a 2, you would flip it to 1/2, which would then make it the compression. And then left 1 unit, that would be correct. So it's really important for you to make sure that you simplify this inside parenthesis before you start listing your transformations, because if you're just glancing at this left 1 unit, you would say, well, that's not correct because this is a plus 2. So you always want to make sure that you have this simplified version before you start checking to make sure your transformations are correct. For 16, I kind of want to walk through a couple things with you. So this is the opposite of what we were just doing. So here we have the equation. We want to check these descriptions. So I would first simplify this equation, actually. So I would factor this 2 out. So then if I'm looking at this, this is all going to be my horizontal movement inside these brackets. So I'm just going to read through kind of what we would need here from left to right. So this negative would be a reflection over the x-axis. Notice that is not in our description here. So we would say Sally forgot the x-axis reflection. And then this 3/2, that would be a compression by a factor of 3/2. That should be a compression of 2/3. We always do the opposite. So we would need to flip that 3/2. And then, okay, actually I'm going to have you erase that. I'm going to back it up. So this 3/2 is outside the brackets. So that is going to be our vertical movement, so that is good. But she wrote a compression. Even though this is a fraction, it's bigger than 1. So that should be an expansion of 3/2. So this should be an expansion. So vertical is outside, so she was right with the vertical. She was right by the factor. She just needed to write an expansion since 3/2 is bigger than 1. And then inside, this would be our horizontal. This would be a compression of 1/2 because it's the opposite. So this should be compression of 1/2. So this should be compression. Just for your notes, you can change that. And then this should be 1/2. And then inside, again, is opposite. So that would be vertical, or this would be horizontal, left, right 3. So this would be right 3. So there's a lot of things to correct in this one. So this would be right 3. And then at the end, this is your vertical movement up, down, and that is following the sign that we see. So that would be vertical translation up 4 units. So that is good. So she had the first transformation incorrect, the third, and the fourth. Okay, I'm gonna have you guys go to the practice. Make sure you're working through all these practice problems because every situation is different, and checking your answers on Canvas.